that people have, no matter what safeguards you put in place, and that will always be something that is difficult for a social network, especially online and location-based, to get over. A lot of people are also worried that they will be selling their location and trying to get revenue through ads. Like if someone goes up to a store and people see on that they are within that vicinity, they can send out ads to them or a coupon or whatnot, and people don't necessarily like that. The other weakness, and this is kind of pretty obvious, but Loopt is only compatible with GPS-enabled phones. Therefore, there's not necessarily a large market share, since not everyone else has a GPS-enabled phone. Now, as far as opportunities in Sweden itself, the opportunities are very strong there. Over 100% of the population has a mobile phone there. It's about 113 phones to every 100 people. Also, the GPS-enabled phone market is expected to grow 6.4% in 2009 alone. And Loopt can also easily adapt to the Swedish market. Over 89% of the population speaks English, so although it is not a necessity to necessarily translate Loopt into Swedish, they do have the ability to. So whether they do that or not will probably not have a huge impact on acceptance, because so many people do speak English. Also, even though there are social networks in Sweden, there are a few that are specifically local to the Swedish market. There is Lunarstorm, which is just an online-based social network based in Sweden. And the only other real local competitor that they have that is similar to them and offers the same features is Limbo. So there is not that much competition there yet. As far as threats go, as is with any technologically based firm, they will suffer from competition. However, because once they get into a market, competition follows. It's easy to follow with technology. So even though they may not initially see competition, it will increase greatly once they are there and other people try to mimic their capabilities. Also the cultural threats in Sweden are fairly strong. They have a strong sense of privacy and therefore may not adapt as quickly to accepting a mobile-based social network. And maintaining success in partnering with Swedish mobile phone providers, even though they have experience with carriers in the U.S., they've never expanded into an international market before, and there are laws and regulations that they will need to adapt to and learn, which they'll have to do with the Swedish mobile carriers. And simply they've never worked with Swedes before, and they may work differently than they do in the U.S. So even though they do have the carrier experience, it may not necessarily be a strong strength for them there.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the target market. In Sweden, we realize that there are over 211 million people ages 15 and older that are on a social network. In the US, it usually depends, but it varies from 16 to 27 is the basic age range for social networks. In Sweden, it's a lot older. So we decided to go with 15 to 35 as our target market. We figured that would encompass a lot of area, but that we could work with it because we would break them down into separate sections. What we do with them is we would break them down into teens, young adults, or college-age students, and young professionals. We figure this gives Loopt different ways to advertise to different companies. The market entry strategy, it'd be a mixture of the defender and extender strategy. The extender strategy would be in their execution, where it would more or less, they could go with the exact same business plan and model that they have. The defender strategy would be when entering Sweden, because they really need to show that they care about the Swedish culture, things like that. As you can see below, the Swedish buying behavior, price, quality, value for the money, and reputation for the brand are the four most important buying decisions that Swedes have when they look into the market. The basic entry will be standardized. The adaptation will be with the carriers, so getting licensing, working with the mobile phone providers may be a little different than it is in the United States. Going along with that, what we propose is licensing, joint ventures, and alliances. With licensing, what Loopt has done is they will license the product out to the mobile provider. This way there can be cross-networking, so you don't just, it's not specific to Vodafone, or it won't be specific to Telenor or Telecenera. It can go between all different networks, and that's up to the provider to license it. Joint ventures, the joint venture for Loopt will be a big success if they can work with mobile social networks like they do in the United States. It would be something like working with Facebook, working with MySpace, working with Twitter, which they've done really well in the United States and can continue to do when they're in Sweden. Also, the alliances. The big alliance is with the iPhone and with Apple. There's the iPhone application, which can be transferred to the Swedish App Store, Swedish iTunes, and it's something that the alliance will really give Loopt the ability to show that they care about the customers, that they are able to enter the market, and that they have strength.
Okay, going into the marketing mix, because we had, just as Steve talked about, the success with the iPhone, we're going to continue with that alliance and integrating with the Apple so that we can have integration also into other networking sites. We could also want to team with the Swedish providers, Vodafone, which is the largest cell phone carrier in Sweden, and since they are credible and have a good reputation, and that's what Swedes look for when buying a product, that's only just going to make our opportunity better. And advertising on the social networking sites is also going to create brand awareness for us. Our product is basically going to stay virtually the same. As Rick said earlier, 89% of the Swedish population does speak English, but just to target that last bit, we are going to be able to translate it into Swedish so that we can try and make our product available to everybody within our target market. Okay, going on to price. Basically, it's free with phones for people that have data plans with their iPhone or their BlackBerry. For other people, Verizon, AT&T, it's $3.99 a month. That's after a 30-day trial, $4 a month for Metro PCS. But if the plan is less than $40 a month, they pay the $4. But if it's higher, then the Loopt is free. And as we said before, it's going to be pre-installed on the cell phone. So once you buy it with a GPS-enabled phone, Loopt is already set and free to go. And that compares in the Swedish currency equivalent to about $3.50 a month. Our distribution is basically, we're using Loopt. We use